I'm glad to welcome you to Soni Irabor Live today. And we have a very mathematical gentleman. In many ways, he's a man of many parts, actually. And see, we really had to come all the way to Wasimi, a place that many of you may not know. It's just a village off Abeokuta. As they say, Abeokuta, of course, is the capital of Ogun State. So, me, I now know new place for Nigeria. But the love of it is that this is the same man who made Nigeria proud over the years in the 70s and 80s. And then, of course, we're going to talk through all of that. He has decided to develop, set up an academy. He also has a secondary school. It's called, now you know his name, Olusegun Odegbami International College and Sports Academy. Sir, you're welcome to the program.
You're welcome to Wasimi.
Wasimi, right. Now, Shegun, Shege, all of the above.
Yes.
Ernest Okonkwo called you mathematical Odegbami. And I found out later you are a mechanical engineer. Then you speak with the ball. You scored so many goals for Africa, for Nigeria, for the Green Eagles specifically. Let's take us back in time and to the moment.
Yes. Let me start with Ernest Okonkwo.
Okay.
I never had the opportunity to ask him
why
he nicknamed me mathematical. Never. Even though we met in Scotland in 1989 when we went to watch the under-17s and we went out for 3 days, but I never got around to asking him. I kept postponing it. But I know that he knew my background was in engineering, and he thought that I had such great passes. In one match in particular against Sierra Leone that I played at the National Stadium. That was the first time he would describe me as mathematical in that match, because I heard the commentaries after. It had to do with the precision of my passes.
Yeah.
I crossed the ball 3 or 4 times. 2 of them ended up in goal, and I scored one myself. And that man is a master of language.
Absolutely.
And he just came up with mathematical. So it could be a combination of my background in engineering and the precision with which I played.
I'm glad you gave us that kind of foundation because the history is fundamental. But you're a man who also saw sports, football especially, soccer, grow. And you've seen since your time, we've had so many great names, Kanu Nwankwo, JJ Okocha, Celestine Babayaro, quite a lot of them. Amokachi, I can't name all of them. Victor Osimhen, exactly. So, looking at all of these names, how would you say soccer has evolved over time?
Nigeria is a breeding ground for gifted players. I think it has to do with the environment and the harsh and hard way of life for the poor person. Because you find that most of these players, most of us, came from poor backgrounds. You hardly find the children of rich people playing football and all that. A few of them, of course. But generally, our backgrounds are poor. You would want to get out of that ghetto and to survive. You wanted to be rich. You wanted to be famous. And some of us, we thought we could be powerful. So that combination is the source of inspiration for so many young people all over the country. So the country breeds footballers. Out of this, huge ocean of players, of course, some of them, shine through and become truly outstanding.
Some of them like you.
Like JJ Okocha, the Kanus and so on. So it is bound to happen. And in our own case, we did not have the benefit of foreign experience. We did not have the benefit of the kind of funds and income that players, make these days. Ours was purely for the sake of being popular in Nigeria.
Passion for football?
Passion for the game.
Love for it.
And being popular. I wanted to be like Sam Garba. Sam Garba was the most popular player in Jos at that time. All the fine girls, gravitated towards Sam Garba. And I felt I wanted to be like him. So that was our motivation. But these days it's even a lot better because there's a whole, economy that is sports and football in particular that is driving youth development, youth empowerment, youth engagement, and that can sustain so many of our young people. So the economy is there, and the people are there who are going through hard times, and they see this opportunity and they grab it with both hands. And many of them excel in the process.
You said you're from Wasimi. How were you selected to become a player?
I grew up in Jos. I spent the first 17 years of my life.
I heard you speak outside earlier. So, okay.
The first 17 years of my life, were spent in Jos. And Jos was the haven. It was the Mecca of footballers in those days.
The days of Mighty Jets.
No, before Mighty Jets.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, before Mighty Jets. If you check the calendar of, or the table of successful clubs in Nigeria in the 50s and in the 60s, you find that the Challenge Cup at that time had 11 visitations in the finals by teams from Jos.
Wow.
11 times Jos teams got to the finals of the FA Cup, which was the biggest competition in Nigeria at that time. So it meant that something in Jos was happening that was fueling the football industry or the production of footballers. And if you look through the names also, Christopher Odumezwe, Godwin Ogbueze, Ogbueze, Emmanuel Egede, Matthew Atuegbu, Andrew Atuegbu, Samuel Garba, Laiwola Olagbemiro, Soni Ekun, many of them, all of them passed through Jos. So when we were growing up in Jos as young boys, those were the superstars. Peter Anyeke, Tony Igwe, they were in secondary school and they were playing for Jos and they were in the national team. And as I said, all the girls and everybody just gravitated towards them. So we wanted to be like them. Because we didn't have rock stars, we didn't have any cultural stars, we didn't have film stars. The only stars we had were football players. So that was my motivation from out of Jos. So I played in the academicals also in Jos. And as soon as I finished in 1970, the same year with you, I just moved straight to Ibadan. I was going to do my prelims in the University of Ibadan. But then I stumbled on the Polytechnic, at that time. And that's how I got into the Polytechnic. Instead of going for my prelims, I went into the Polytechnic. I had friends who were playing football there. One of them came from Jos, encouraged me to come and join. And after the first year, we won the FA Cup in the West at that time.
What was it like? What was that feeling like?
It was
because
you couldn't imagine it. This was an 18-year-old boy.
Go boy.
18-year-old bush boy from Jos, who was just, my eyes were open to that world, the new world of the Southwest, of Yoruba land, Lagos and the Ibadan axis and all of that. And for the first time, I was leaving home to really go out and team up with young people.
Home?
Yes.
As in from Jos?
From Jos.
To Lagos, where?
To Ibadan.
Okay, Ibadan, that's true.
So it was leaving home. So it was a totally different experience for me. And then suddenly they found out that I was a very good football player. And in the first year, after the first year, we won the FA Cup. A team called NTC at the time, they were not doing well. We just, so many schoolboys in the team, and we gathered ourselves and then the team won.
What was the motivation that you thought made you all so young to win?
I don't know. We just loved to play. We loved the game. And for some reason, one reason or the other, we were doing well. I was fearless. Haven't played in Jos.
Fearless, another word. Take note of
that. Haven't played in Jos and played against those names. You see those names I just mentioned. Played with them and, and then coming to Ibadan to come and play. And people recognized me. People recognized as a gifted player. That was enough for me. So I went out there. And by my third year, I was declared the best football player in the West.
Wow.
I won that award in the West. I was invited to the national team. Third year in Ibadan. I played in the first National Sports Festival for the Western.
Which year was this?
1973. I was invited to the national team in December of 1973. young boy, 21 years old. I was 21 from Jos, and I didn't know, just to go to the national team. It was not anything that was in my dream.
And that age, 23, was quite young at the time.
21.
21 was
Yeah.
quite young. My goodness. Okay. When I look at that, compare the selection process then to what it is now, looking at the years in between, what would you say?
It's a different world now. At that time, everything was limited to Nigeria.
Hmm.
The space was, you are playing FA Cup, or in 73, they introduced the National Sports Festival. Well, we had academicals, so you could pick players from the academicals as well. But that was the entire space. But now the space is global. Most of the players who represent the national team now come from far places, most of them from Europe.
Hmm.
Europe didn't exist in our consciousness at that time. Nobody was playing in Europe. We didn't know that you could even play in Europe. We didn't think that those who were playing in Europe were human. We thought that they were superhuman. And it was not even in our dreams to go and play in Europe.
Right.
So it's a totally different world,
I don't know how you felt seeing your boys, shining, carrying your flag over there in Europe.
Absolutely happy and delighted about it all, and the opportunities that they now have, that gladdens my heart. That takes the weight of what to do about our young boys and girls out of our hands completely to another sphere, and it takes them to another dimension, because the sports business is massive business. The kinds of money that you hear that these boys make these days is mind-boggling. And which parent, you just heard me speak with one lady on the phone there. She was calling from Yola about her 10-year-old son that she wants to bring because the son wants to play football. By all means, that's what you find these days. Even the children of young people now want to take the route of football and other sports because it's a career. You make so much money from it, and beyond it, there's another whole new world. Beyond the football itself, when you finish playing it, if you are sensible, you can go into the media, you can go into the health, into health, you can go into the business and different kinds of business, you can go into investment of sports scouts, sports medicine, scouting, grantsmanship, and so on. And it's a whole planet of opportunities for our children. So I'm delighted that that's why I set up a school to provide opportunity and the information for these young children to know the possibilities and opportunities that exist out there, so that they can still play their football confidently and comfortably, and still hope that beyond it, there's a world they can go into and succeed.
There's something that triggers my curiosity when you were talking about getting the young ones to get involved in sports and everything. With the experiences that the likes of you and those that came after you encountered in terms of welfareism, allowances, and all of that, I don't know how you want to look at it critically now, before we go into the whole essence of sports administration. Do you include that in the school curricula? Say, in training, are they entitled to allowances? If they are, what kind of advice will you give them if they don't get it?
No, we don't do that. What we do here has nothing to do with the professional side of football.
Okay.
What we do here is the academic side of football. We try to impact in the children that knowledge of combining their football prowess with a solid education, so that even as they play, they are doing well. After they stop playing, they can still do well. That's the world that I want to create, that I have created, because the story of Nigeria,
your world, actually.
Yes, the story of Nigeria and Nigerian football is littered with the story of people who finish playing football and they don't do well anymore. Even till now, you find that the whole place is a dustbin of once successful football players who are now suffering. They don't have, there's no other profession to go into, no jobs waiting for them, there's no welfare package to take care of them. And as they start to age, then you start to see the effect of this neglect in our setup of providing education for them whilst they still can go to school and giving them the football content of it. So, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to play football, you come from a third world country like Nigeria, where it is hard. Nigeria is a hard place to live. If you want to succeed, you must get an education. It is so important. So we encourage all our young children in this school. We don't discuss professional football here. We can tell them that, look, if you graduate, spend the next 3 years, get a degree. We help you to get the degree. Then you become 19 or 20, then you can go professional. And that's what we are doing. So many of our students have graduated from colleges and universities, both in the US and in India, where many of them go to. And if they don't succeed in football, and many of them do succeed, we have a few of them who are playing in the European leagues, then you find them doing
from
other.
The school?
Yes.
Then
you find them doing other businesses. They go into other things. And we have a great ambassador in Oganla. He was our first head boy in this school. He went to America, graduated. He was the best student in America, both in football and in his academics. But he wasn't good enough to go professional. But today he's a very successful person. He has a master's degree. He comes back home and he takes so many of our young boys back to American colleges and universities, and he's doing well in the businesses that he's gone into. So that's what we do here. We don't encourage our youngsters to go straight into professional football. On their own, they can do so if they have the opportunity. What we do is encourage them as much as possible to get their minimum 4 hours of football every day in this institution.
4 hours?
4 hours.
Every day?
Every day. Minimum. We'll get to 6 when we have floodlights in the school, but we don't have floodlights. But it's 4 hours every day. And you're going to get that for 6 years. By the time you leave this school, you are a first-class football player.
It's part and parcel of your
you are first. There's nobody who leaves this school who is not a first-class sports person. They become first class, and then you can now go and start to play your professional
There's
football.
something that strikes me in all of these, because I'm yet to get over, the fact that sports administration is in the hands of government. Okay? But people like you, with experience, with your pedigree, with your background, with your education, and then you have an academy, you have a college, do they even consult you? If not, what advice do you want to give them, people like that who, in government I mean, tend to forget that they have a responsibility, to make sure that the students or the players that are going to represent the country for them will do so with no emotional distraction whatsoever?
Well, when you mention government, look,
Yes.
Government is the biggest business in Nigeria. And there's no business that you do not lean on government in one form or the other for survival. For you to even establish it, you have to go through government. And for you to succeed, you have to go through so many channels in government. And if you look through our history, you find that government was involved in everything before. And gradually, they will start to hands off some of those sectors for people who want to invest in them. And the same thing is happening in football. Majority of our clubs, for example, are owned by government. Either state governments or government agencies or government, or even companies. It's like New Nigerian Bank owning that football club, or Bendel Insurance owning a football club. Those are
stationary stores too.
No, that was a private man. Okay. That was not government.
Okay, it wasn't government.
Yes, but a lot of the clubs. But for government, Nigerian football may not have developed the way it has done. So government has played a big role in taking football from where we started in the 60s to where we are now, definitely. But at the same time, government has been some kind of hindrance, and it is in the succession of administrators who are supposed to supervise the growth and development of the game, as in other sports, the impact, the influence of government in putting those people in positions where those who are not very qualified, some who are not actual stakeholders, some who are there for their own private business. Those are the people that now direct the affairs of our sports in some areas. And that's, well, if you ask some people, they will say that's what is controlling Nigerian sports. But it is not so. Government is impactful, government is influential, maybe too influential. They are also the major headache. Somehow we have to find a happy medium, because without government, I tell you, our sports would have collapsed.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but the way you have put it now is justifying some measures of the positive side. But the negative is those individuals that seem to forget that their role is to midwife the relationship between the people that are representing, that are flying the flag of government or of the nation, to the extent that they will not be distracted in any way. So they should be given their allowances. If they don't get their allowances, they may not perform very well. Some of them may deliberately even mess up the whole process. So
it's the roles and responsibilities of the different stakeholders are not clear.
Okay.
So there's a role for government in the administration and development of sports in Nigeria. That role should be clear, and government should fund that aspect of it. Then there are roles for stakeholders. Who will
make it clear? Sorry about that. We'll come back.
Yes.
Who will make it clear?
As far as I'm concerned, it's the Federal Ministry of Sports.
Okay.
It's the Federal Ministry of Sports. It's the overall supervisor for sports in the country. And it should enforce that certain things are done. For example, in establishing the federations, the sports federations that run the different sports clubs and organizations in the country, they must ensure that the rules, the constitution, are in tandem with the vision the country has for sports and the roles that the different bodies, the different stakeholders in sports must play, so that people can take hold of their responsibility. These federations don't even know where their responsibility ends and where that of government starts. We are going to the Olympics, for example, now. The NOC is the one that registers Nigeria to participate at the Olympics. Okay. So right now, the Ministry of Sports and the sports federations take a slight backseat. They are not in the forefront anymore. It's the NOC that is in the forefront. Yes. When we are going to the World Cup, the NOC has no role to play.
True.
You see, it is the federation that registers us, that takes us to the World Cup, the Football Federation.
Okay.
When we are going to the All Africa Games, for example, this is the Ministry of Sports baby. The Ministry of Sports baby. They are the ones that organize the National Sports Festival, for example. They are the ones that organize the All Africa Games, the Supreme Council for Sports in Africa, that has a new name now. The ministry is in the forefront of that. So everybody has to take control over their own aspect of sports. That the delineation must happen, so that people know their roles and their responsibilities. Who is responsible for what? We still don't have that up till now.
So if anybody fails now, nobody is held responsible.
Everybody blames everybody else.
No, that's not. I do not understand how that should be a reason for anybody to get away with such shameful thing as wearing, donations of football. Jerseys. This was in Brazil, I think it was. Was it that it happened not too long ago? Anyway, I'm not supposed to opinionate on things like that. It's just that you know what sports is like for us.
Yes.
But there's one question I'd like to ask you. How come the British or European derbies, Premier League, Bundesliga, was La Liga and all of those, you have so much passion being expressed by Nigerians, but we don't have for such local teams here? Why?
We had.
Okay.
And if you remember in those days when there were movements of people that became clubs, like Rangers International. That was the movement of the Igbo people
Yeah.
that became a club that resurrected from the ashes of the Civil War and came forcefully to come into our consciousness in Nigeria at the time. And their counter in the southwest, which was Shooting Stars, which was a Yoruba club, or the one that emerged from Edo State,
Midwest, Bendel
which was
Insurance.
Bendel Insurance,
Okay.
or the one that came from Kano that became Raka Rovers.
Raka Rovers.
Or from El Kanemi, the El Kanemi in Borno area, the Kanuri people, and so on and so forth. Those were huge movements that were beyond clubs.
They were positive.
Yes, so you are talking of derbies.
Yes.
So at that time, if Rangers wanted to play against Bendel Insurance, it was as big as Man City playing Manchester United. It was that size. But we lost it for so many reasons. Rangers does not represent the Igbo movement anymore. There's Enyimba, there's Heartland. There are other teams in other states. The fragmentation of Nigeria fragmented those clubs as well. And the same thing in the southwest. Shooting Stars is not alone anymore. There's Osun United, there's this, there's that, all over. And the same thing in the north. So the teams, our political development actually affected the followership of the clubs. And the packaging of our football had to compete with what they were packaging abroad. Football in Europe, the Premiership is irresistible. Not just for us here in Nigeria, for the whole world. The whole world is consuming it.
And they also attracted our local
The
boys.
whole world is following, and all of that. It is a packaging, deliberate packaging and marketing and presentation and television. And in those days, 3 cameras used to cover one match in Nigeria. Now 48 cameras to cover a single match and more. Now they are even using drones and all kinds of things to cover all the angles, the sound of the ball and all kinds of things. So this is technology.
People like you got tempted to be trained by such people, such arrangers and administrators, because you're still very much involved in sports.
Yeah, we still play our roles, our small roles.
When you say
we are not in a position to influence massive changes.
Is it that they don't come to you, or you don't go to them, or what is the problem? Is it that when you go to them, they don't respond? Do they see you as a threat? What is it?
No. Well, I can't answer that question, because you're talking about me now. I am in the system. Whether I am there physically or not, I am there. You are discussing it with me now.
Yes.
I have my own media, in terms of I have a radio station, I have a publication where I do my sports. I am socially online. I work as an ambassador for sports. I am a diplomat for sports. I went to AFCON on my own, yet I played
on your own.
Yes, and yet I played my ambassadorial role. I went there, I mobilized the people.
So why would you not say you cannot answer that question? I mean, I don't understand.
No, this is me. I'm just one person. But you see, I am in the system because I head the Sports and Diplomacy Unit of the Nigeria Institute of International Affairs. And that's diplomacy. And if you look at the Olympics, that's where all the politics of sports in the world takes place. In 1976, we went to Montreal, Canada. 28 African countries boycotted the games because our government told us that we should boycott the games because in protest against apartheid in South Africa.
Yeah.
That's politics. That's diplomacy for you. I went to Ivory Coast, as I said. I went around some of the schools. I went there. We practiced the national anthem. We mobilized the people in the different areas.
Only to be asked to pull out.
To go to the stadium, to go and support. That's my role. So whether we are there officially or not, we are there. I come in here. I got a call from the chairman of the LMC telling me that on Tuesday they are doing the draws for the next 2024-2025 Premiership, the Nigerian Premier League, and they wanted me to be present there, to carry out certain functions. I'm not in the Nigerian Football Federation. I'm just an individual. But you see, it's
But your
recognition.
opinion counts.
Oh, yes.
Huh.
Oh, yes. I express my opinion. You know me now. I express my opinion because I have my media. I have my media. I don't go to anywhere else to express my opinion. But those are opinions. And I don't hesitate whatsoever to write, to talk on radio, to appear on TV, to do whatever needs to be done.
Well, we're talking to a mechanical engineer who's multifaceted, a sportsman, encyclopedia, if you like, and he's an extraordinaire for all I care, and for all you care too. We'll be right back after the break.
From the hills of the Southeast Africa, reporting coverage on the ground, exclusive reports, and the latest news, all right here. We speak to the people live, get their perspectives on the latest news, the happenings, and the trends. I am Bongani Siziba, live from Johannesburg, South Africa. This is News Central.
Welcome back. I'm talking to the mathematical Odegbami. Well, we heard at the beginning of this program when he said it was the late Ernest Okonkwo. Well, he was also our boss as well on Radio Nigeria, the sports commentator extraordinaire, another one. He gave him that name, mathematical. And we also found out that he studied mechanical engineering. And then, of course, he became a national icon. Sports, soccer, name it. Today, he owns a college, secondary school, and sports academy. He owns a radio station. He owns a publication. He has an online program. And then, of course, he also has a television program. The man is multi-everything. So welcome back to the second half. Right.
Master of none.
No, master of all. Master of all. You are a master of all. Now, Segun, you see, when one really looks at you, a very easygoing person, you know, smile or laughter it's not difficult for you. But there are things you are releasing quietly from this conversation that shows that if you had your way, you should be able to redirect the way sports is going in Nigeria. Can you address that?
The sports industry, the sports sector is a huge global economy. And it encompasses, from my experiences through the past since I stopped playing football, virtually every aspect of life. I visited Kenya once, and I was part of a group discussing the re-engineering of the city of Mombasa in Kenya. Mombasa. They were doing redesigning the city. And you know, in Kenya, they love to run. Yes. Everybody runs. They are the best middle and long distance runners in the world. So within the city of Mombasa, they needed to create spaces where athletes could run. And they had this agenda to make the citizens healthy, beyond just running for sport, to create an environment where people would carry out things that would keep them healthy. Exercise is medicine. It's the primary thing. You need people to exercise, whether they do it voluntarily or not. So they are redesigning that city. And I sat with them and I realized that even in town planning, there is sport.
There is sport. Yes.
Not to talk of my relationship with the Nigerian Heart Foundation. Heart Foundation. Yes. That is a medical foundation. I was invited as a result of my work with the Heart Foundation to address a group at the World Public Health Congress. World Public Health. It's a health and medical thing in Ethiopia. 157 countries, with so many of our directors of federal medical centers and all these teaching hospitals in Nigeria. They came there and they saw me addressing a conference there.
And I'm sure they were wondering.
And they were wondering, and a sportsman. In the same way, I had been a resource person in Harvard University, where I was invited to go to be part of a delegation of 5 persons from around the world. 5 came from Africa, and I was one of them, to discuss the subject of business in Africa. And so on. You can just go on and on. You find that they are all interconnected, you know, in the sciences, in the media, in health, in business, in so many. They are all connected. They are all into sports and football and all of that. So there's this planet of opportunities for our young people, boys and girls, beyond just physically playing it and succeeding, which is a huge industry on its own. You know, the value added is so much that this country should make sports a priority. A priority.
I'm re-quoting you.
Yes.
Should make sports a priority.
Absolutely.
They are not.
They are not. So that's what you are asking me. You know, it's like me carving a role for myself in society. Yes, it will be great if our government realizes what sports can do for our teeming youths, population all over the place, how it can transform their lives. It can give them education, solid education. The evidence is here. You can combine it. It can give them opportunities in virtually every aspect of business. It can do all of that, but we need to channel the energies, the attention, the intellectual capacity of these young people into that direction, to guide them into it. That's what we should do. And that should be the job of the Federal Ministry of Sports and the Federal Ministry of Education in combination. Between them, they have to work
hand
together.
in hand.
Between them, they would engage all these our youths who are all over the place, who don't, they are into all kinds of vices, yahoo, doing this, doing that. They are, they are the kidnappers. They are the all manner of things. These are people that can go into genuine fields of development and make a living out of it and do well and become part of the global, constellation of stars in different fields. All these are our youth. We must engage them. That is my greatest dream. I wish I was in a position to be able to do some of those things. And anyway, I'm going to be in that position very soon. I don't have to be in government. I don't have to be in government to do that.
Okay.
I don't have to be in government.
By the way, amen to that. I said it.
Amen.
So
Amen.
just now,
Amen.
Right. Olusegun Odegbami. Let's know you more. I know you're from Wasimi. You said Wasimi.
Yeah, Wasimi.
Okay. And you also said you are a village boy.
Yes, so
I don't see much of that, but then
that's the village.
They call it. Where is it? Okay, this is my health farm.
This is paradise.
Yes. And so I see you as somebody who has evolved.
True.
Now that evolution is showing that it rested in sports. That's what you became well known for. But a lot of other things.
Yes. You see, what's happened to me is that after I stopped playing, shortly before I stopped playing and after, for some reason I started to see the world through the lens of sport. Everything I needed to do, I had to do to connect it to sport. Otherwise, nobody will take me serious. If I come to you now, Soni, and I tell you that I want to drill oil, I want to go and start to drill,
I will laugh.
You will just laugh and say, But if I come and I tell you that, look, in the oil drilling area, I want to gather all the boys who are there. They will be playing football, but
you have a football team.
You have a football team, but we also teach them how to drill oil. You will give me the job.
Sure.
So I started to think that, look, I have to see my world through the prism of sport for people to, to fall for me, to grasp my attention, or what? How do I put it now? For me to attract their attention. If I put it through sport, then look, I write.
And you're a damn good writer, I must say.
I have written 4 books. I've written 4 books. I went to a school yesterday, a sports school yesterday in Ileobo. And the principal asked the 180 population student, asked them who had read my book, because it's in their library. I gave them a copy. And only one boy raised his hand.
How did you feel?
That was a big, not just disappointment, but immediately my mind just went to the quality of book I gave them. So I just started telling myself immediately, you see, that book you may not have written for secondary school children to write. Maybe how you wrote it is not interesting for them. Maybe what you wrote is not interesting for them. I started just creating all of that in my head immediately. And I decided right there and then that I'm going to write another book. This time, it will be for secondary school students. And this time, I'm going to tell them stories. If I tell them stories, interesting stories, and I write it in such a way that it is not complicated, I say just short sentences. You don't go and to check your dictionary to find out the meaning of words, and the stories are suspenseful, and then the stories have a meaning, they have a purpose, they direct you towards something, a good cause, a program in education, a program in sports, the opportunities that lie there, the values of combining them, and so on and so forth, even for your health. For your health. If I tell you the story of, well, there are so many stories why a group is interested in this school. When children come into the school at age 10, the first 3 months of their coming here, you are giving them 4 hours of sports every day. The children, at 10 o'clock in the morning, they are all sleeping in class because they are tired.
Of course.
These are children.
Yes.
But come in 6 months' time.
They're different.
In 6 months' time, when you come at 2 o'clock, when students outside in other schools are tired, they want to go home, my own students are alert. It is what sport...
The value of sport.
Yes, it is what sport has done for them. People don't know that active transport, the quantum of physical activity you do every day can elongate your life by as long as 10 years. You can live longer if you do physical activity up to a certain quantum every day. And it doesn't mean you want to go and run or you want to go and play football.
Keep the blood flowing.
Just physical activity.
Yes.
Physical activity. Even in your work at home, in climbing stairs, in this school, everybody has to walk long distances. It's deliberate.
I've enjoyed it, by the way.
For you to cover those, it elongates your life by at least 10 years. You don't suffer from hypertension easily. You are not obese. If you have diabetes, you knock it off quickly. All manner of things. You become a healthier citizen just by the exercise. We are not even talking sport now. Just by the exercise. Those are all intrinsic values that we can hand over to young people. And this is sport. So I see everything. My business, my life, my that. I see everything through the prism of sport. And it's not just me. Tunde Kilani, who is a film maker, he tells me the same thing. He's my friend.
Yes.
He sees everything through the lens of a camera.
The camera, that's true.
If he look at you like this, he will take his camera and look at you differently. So that's how we are.
But why are we not, getting... I'm sorry, I have to bring back this whole issue about governance and followership. Why are we not trying, therefore, to get people who are interested in developing the youths, getting the youths off the street and making the youths engaged in such activities as you've just described, to make them all really, really, involved, happy, and willing?
I will tell this story for the first time.
Okay.
I will tell this story. This is exclusive.
Yeah.
When President Goodluck Jonathan was president, he set up, without knowing, I don't think he knew, the scope of what he set up. Under one minister, I don't even remember who the minister was, a small committee called NASCOM. That committee was supposed to revive academical sports.
That's right.
Sports at academicals level, secondary school level, tertiary institutions level, and so on. That is grassroots sports development in all our institutions in Nigeria. In every secondary school in Nigeria, you needed to revive sports within them.
Yes.
That was the project. It was a simple mandate, but so many moving parts that it could have transformed sports in Nigeria completely. Engaged all our youth in secondary schools, made people commit to sports, developed infrastructure in sports. All this cheating that they say they are cheating in age thing and all those things should,
Stop.
we engage them. The children will understand the opportunities so much. Our universities will become breeding grounds. Will become like America in 1968, where all their athletes went to the Olympics and they were all students. That's what we should be doing.
Yes.
But what happened? We started the program. I addressed the committee of vice chancellors. I addressed all the rectors of universities, of polytechnics in Nigeria. I addressed all the principals of secondary schools in Nigeria, private and public. I addressed all the principals of federal government secondary schools in Nigeria. I addressed all this. I went to different places and addressed them. All the sports councils in Nigeria, we invited them to Abuja. We had a grand plan. We were going to collate all registered sports people in secondary schools and universities in Nigeria, register them under one platform. Digital age, this digital age, you will just pick a name and look, everything was in process. Suddenly, change of ministers. They changed the minister. A new minister came in. Don't let me mention his name. He didn't even know what was going on. He brought his friend to come and, maybe not his friend, because he didn't have the vision. He didn't know what was going on. So he brought somebody
And didn't read it.
to replace
Whoever
the
was
people that President Goodluck Jonathan had put in position, that they had done so much work and collated everything. One bank, the bank manager of a bank, not the MD of a bank, listened to the presentation of this package. He listened and he said, look, every day in this office, I receive hundreds of proposals.
But this is the best.
Sometimes, most of them end up in this dustbin. But sometimes one or two come through. I call my directors and we say, let's examine this. But there's one proposal that has come before this desk. I can tell you now, this proposal is the best thing I've ever seen. That day, they gave us a car. They gave us, that organization, NASCOM, that day they said one car should go to that organization to facilitate our movement. That bank was going to fund cards for every single sports person in secondary schools and universities in Nigeria, all over Nigeria. They were going to fund cards for them. The card will be an ATM card. The card will be an insurance card. The card will be the identity card. The card will be... Because they just changed one minister.
Everything went
and
blank.
They removed the people who were there. And they brought new people in. And the whole project just died. Bam.
Yeah, because the bank was no more interested.
The biggest grassroots sports development program in our entire history just disappeared. Fiam, because they changed one minister for another. My brother.
It can be revived, can't it?
Of course, it can be. But I was just telling you this story just so that you understand the kind of...
It's heartbreaking, actually.
The government does not make sport a priority. No government has made sport a priority.
And
none.
It's only in this country that happens, because other countries of the world are thinking differently.
Absolutely. Look at what is happening in Qatar.
Yes.
In Qatar, they hosted the World Cup. Look at what is happening in Spain, what they are doing with their sports, the programs in Spain. I said Spain, in Morocco.
Yeah.
Morocco here in Africa. Look at what is happening in Saudi Arabia. Look at what happened in China. All these countries have utilized sports as great tools for national development. But not us here in Nigeria. I pray that one day, Sha.
Okay, we'll just take another short break before we conclude. It's very necessary because the way I'm feeling, anyway, I try not to opinionate on things like this, but we'll be right back.
Jasiri is where the conversation starts. We amplify diverse voices and challenge narratives.
Bringing societal issues to the fore. This is where everyone has a voice.
That perception that I have your type at home, actually four of your type at home, it starts to shift just because you are like, well, this my type is right here.
Exactly. We break barriers and bridge generational divides.
So who is going to make Gen Z believe that it is giving?
I love it. She said it.
To speak your native language.
Silence is not an option.
We are unconventional, but unique. Brace yourselves.
I had no holes in my ear until I was 14 years old.
And now how many do you have?
I have holes in places you don't want to.
Join us weekdays at 10 a.m. right here on News Central.
Welcome to Soni Irabor Live. And with the ace mathematical striker, scorer, international footballer or national footballer, Olusegun Odegbami. Okay, Olusegun, I want to let you know that I admire your consistency in you say, my weekly something for Soni. I always enjoy it when you send me such, you've never failed.
Yes.
It's been so many years. When do you have time to write all of those things?
Well, people ask me that. I don't know. I think I beat the bug when I was in secondary school. When one lecturer came to class, I was in Form 3, and told us to write an essay. Just went to the board and he wrote, "Why law?" Write an essay, "Why law?" and submit next week. Why law? What kind of topic is that? Anyway, white man, we all now started running around trying to find, okay, what should we write? And that's how we discovered the library.
Ooh.
Patrick Graves, my colleague, took us to the library, said, look, let's go and check encyclopedia. We went to law. What is law? And then everybody started researching. And in researching, it was beautiful. It was another world entirely. The encyclopedia, the world of the encyclopedia. So much information, so much entertainment, everything. And I started finding out about law, and I was jotting down the points like all of my other colleagues. By the following week, when we submitted this, even I knew that what I had written was masterclass. I knew, because I got a lot of it from encyclopedia. I wrote about the law, the history of law, what is this, what is that. Beautiful. And the guy collected all the papers, went back to the board and wrote again, why school? Write it, submit it next week. So the following week, that week, we now knew the routine. We went to the library, encyclopedia, dictionary, and we started researching school, the genesis of school, the this, the that, the that. By the time we finished writing it, 2 weeks later, the guy invited all of us. Some of us read what we wrote in class, and I was beaten by the bug. And he told us, look, you guys wrote well and all of that. Me in particular, he said, from now onwards, what I want you to do is, you see your sentences, they're a bit long.
Make them precise.
I want you to write those sentences as short as possible. I am Shegun. I go to school. My mother is... Remove all the commas and apostrophes and no. Just reduce everything to short sentences. You will never go wrong. That's what he told me. You will never go wrong. Nobody would ever say, this is wrong. But if you want to make it beautiful, you cannot add the and between two sentences. So I caught the bug. I started to write. Unfortunately, I was a fine artist. I could also illustrate. So I started to write and illustrate. And somebody saw me when I was playing football. The editor of Sunday Tribune, at that time in Ibadan, my friend, he saw some of my writings and he said, Shegun, you should write for the Tribune. I want you to write for it. I was playing, 78, February.
And so many years later.
And I wrote in the Tribune from February. I have not stopped writing since February 1978.
78. Oh my God, that's a whole lifetime away.
So I write every day. I read up every day. I research this. I enjoy reading. I enjoy writing. So I write every day of my life.
And we love to have you as our writer, talker, player, scorer, anything every day of our lives. Olusegun Odegbami on Soni Irabor Live today. Thank you very much, sir. Great. Let me shake your hand.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank
indeed.
you. Thank you.
And,
I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Oh, me too. Me too. I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have as well. Thank you for being with us. This is Soni Irabor Live.